and the scientific community that will, in essence, pressure test what we think we've found. So we're talking about Perseverance. This was a mission sent to Mars under President Trump's first presidency.
Deep within Mars' Jezero Crater, a robotic arm drills into billion-year-old rock. Onboard sensors analyze the dust, and suddenly alarms go off in mission control. The data streaming back to Earth is historic. NASA has just confirmed the building blocks of life. At an urgent press conference, scientists tried to stay calm, but the implications are staggering.
And a year ago, we found a sample, and it was, again, we're exploring in places where there were rivers and where there were lakes, and much as on Earth, we think that that's where we'd see signs of ancient life on Mars.
For the first time, we have tangible proof that Earth may not be the only cradle of life in our solar system.
Signs of microbial life on the Mars surface. And so we put it out to our scientific friends. They've come back and they said, so this very well could be the clearest sign of life that we've ever found on Mars.
Forget theories and speculation. This is about hard evidence pulled directly from the Martian soil. Mission Control's biggest moment. The story that changes the world began not with a bang, but with a drill. On the floor of a vast, dusty crater 30 miles wide, a 6-wheeled, 1-ton robot named Perseverance extended its arm. You see, this wasn't just any crater, this was Jezero Crater, a place scientists had dreamed of visiting for decades. Why? Because over 3.5 billion years ago, it was a massive lake fed by a winding river that carved a delta into the crater wall. If life ever existed on Mars, this was the place to look for its ghost. The rover targeted a specific outcrop within the delta, a location nicknamed Sapphire Canyon. The rocks here were special. Fine-grained sedimentary layers, the kind that on Earth are perfect for preserving the delicate signatures of ancient life. The drill whirred, grinding into rock that hadn't seen the light of day for eons. And then, it found it. The thing nobody tells you is that finding life on another planet isn't about digitalized alien skeleton. It's about chemistry. The rover's advanced instruments, specifically a tool called Sherlock, used a laser to analyze the rock's composition. The data that streamed millions of miles back to Earth was jaw-dropping. It found a cocktail of compounds that had no business being there together. The list included iron phosphate, iron sulfide, and most importantly, a variety of organic carbon molecules. On their own, each of these can be created by simple geology. But finding them concentrated in the same tiny space is a massive red flag. Here on Earth, this exact chemical mix is what scientists call a biosignature. It's the leftover mess that microbial colonies leave behind as they live, eat, and perish. It's like finding a campsite with a fire pit, empty food cans, and footprints. You might not see the campers, but you know they were there. Many people are crazy about the idea of Martians, but we're talking about something far older and simpler. We're talking about microbes, tiny single-celled organisms that may have thrived in Jezero's ancient waters. The iron sulfide, for example, is often a waste product of bacteria that breathe sulfate instead of oxygen. The iron phosphate forms when microbes die and their cellular contents, rich in phosphorus, fossilize. And the organic carbon? That's the literal stuff of life, the complex molecules that form the basis of every living thing we've ever known. NASA's scientists at the press conference were careful. They used words like potential and possible, but you could see it in their eyes. This was different. This wasn't just finding water ice or simple methane. This was the most compelling, direct, and powerful evidence for life beyond Earth that humanity has ever uncovered. The Perseverance rover, a machine that cost over $2.7 billion, had just fulfilled its ultimate purpose. It had found the clues we've been searching for since we first looked up at the stars and wondered. But the story gets deeper. The thing is, this discovery didn't just happen in any old rock. It happened in a specific layer that corresponds to a time when Mars was losing its atmosphere and drying up. This suggests that if life existed, it might have been in a desperate struggle for survival, clinging on in the last remaining pockets of water. This makes the finding even more profound. It's not just evidence of life, but evidence of life fighting to survive against impossible odds. The discovery at Sapphire Canyon is just the beginning. The rover has already sealed samples of this rock in airtight titanium tubes, which it has left on the Martian surface. A future mission is being designed right now to go to Mars, pick up these tubes, and bring them back to Earth for analysis in our most advanced labs. Only then will we know for sure. But what they found at Sapphire Canyon is eerily similar to a controversial discovery made decades ago. 40-year-old mystery. To understand why the announcement about Jezero Crater is so massive, we have to turn the clock back almost 50 years. Back to 1976. Two landers named Viking 1 and Viking 2 successfully touched down on the surface of Mars. They were the first machines to ever perform experiments on Martian soil, and their mission was simple: find life. And in a stunning turn of events, one of their experiments came back positive. It was called the Labeled Release Experiment, and it was designed by a brilliant engineer named Gilbert Levin. The concept was simple. Take a scoop of Martian soil, add a drop of liquid nutrient broth tagged with a radioactive tracer, and see if anything eats it. If there were microbes in the soil, they would consume the nutrient and release radioactive gas, which the lander's sensors would detect. And that's exactly what happened. The moment the nutrient was added, the radioactive gas detectors went wild. The result was positive. It was a clear, repeatable signal that looked exactly like it did during control tests on Earth using microbe-rich soil. For a fleeting moment, it seemed like we had found life on Mars. But not all things are what they seem. You see, another experiment on the Viking landers designed to find organic molecules, the building blocks of life, came back completely negative. This created a huge problem. How could there be life that was metabolizing a nutrient but no organic molecules from their dead bodies in the soil? It didn't make sense. NASA was faced with a contradiction. In the end, they made a decision. They declared that the labeled release experiment must have been a false positive caused by some strange, unknown, non-biological chemical reaction in the Martian soil. Gilbert Levin fought this conclusion for the rest of his life, arguing his experiment had worked perfectly. For decades, the official story was that Viking found no life. But the thing nobody tells you is that new discoveries have completely changed the picture. We now know that the Viking experiment looking for organics wasn't sensitive enough. Even more importantly, we discovered a class of chemicals on Mars called perchlorates. When these chemicals are heated up, which is exactly what the Viking instrument did, they can destroy the very organic molecules the experiment was looking for. In other words, the test for life's building blocks could have accidentally erased the evidence it was trying to find. Many people are crazy about this possibility, and it casts the original positive result from the labeled release experiment in a whole new light. Suddenly, it looks a lot less like a false positive and a lot more like the real deal. This history is crucial because it shows that the new Perseverance discovery isn't happening in a vacuum. It's the latest piece in a puzzle that we've been trying to solve for half a century. The ghosts of the Viking mission are whispering that we may have been right all along. But finding tiny microbes is one thing. The bigger question is what this means for us. The Great Terrifying Filter. So NASA finds strong evidence of ancient simple life on Mars. That's good news, right? It means we are not alone. It's a historic, wonderful moment. But hold on, the thing nobody tells you is that for some scientists, finding simple life on Mars is one of the most terrifying discoveries imaginable. Why? The answer lies in a chilling concept known as the Great Filter. You see, the universe is incredibly old, over 13 billion years. Our galaxy alone has hundreds of billions of stars, and we now know that most of them have planets. The math suggests that life, even intelligent life, should be everywhere. So the famous question, known as the Fermi paradox, is, where is everybody? The Great Filter is a proposed answer to that question. It's some kind of barrier, some impossibly difficult evolutionary step that life has to overcome, and it's so hard to pass through that almost no species ever does. This filter could be one of many things. Maybe the leap from non-living chemicals to the first simple cell is the filter. If that were true, we would expect to find almost no life anywhere. The universe would be barren. But if the Perseverance rover is right and simple microbial life started independently on Mars, then that first step isn't the great filter. It means getting life started is actually pretty common. That sounds great, but it leads to a horrifying conclusion. If getting life started is easy but the galaxy is still silent, it means the great filter isn't behind us, it's ahead of us. It means that there's some hurdle that civilizations inevitably face that almost always leads to their end. What could it be? Many people are crazy about the possibilities. Maybe it's a technological trap like the invention of nuclear weapons or uncontrolled artificial intelligence. Maybe it's a natural event like a nearby supernova or a catastrophic asteroid impact that's unavoidable on a long enough timescale. Or maybe civilizations just always become unsustainable and collapse under their own weight. The point is, finding dead microbes on Mars would be a warning sign. It would be evidence that life is not rare, but that complex, intelligent life like us is. It would be a cosmic message that says getting started is easy. Surviving is hard. It transforms the silent night sky from a place of empty wonder into an ominous graveyard. Suddenly, being alone feels a lot safer than having cosmic neighbors who never managed to make it. This all seems like science fiction, but what if we're missing the real story right here, right now? A perfectly timed distraction. Let's bring this back down to Earth. Forget about great filters and billion-year-old microbes for a second and think about what's happening right now. An urgent press conference is called. NASA scientists, some of the smartest people on the planet, stand before the world and present evidence that could rewrite every science and history book. But they choose their words so carefully. They talk about potential biosignatures and needing more research. This is the biggest story in human history, and they're being incredibly cautious. Why? Are they just being good scientists, or is there another reason? The thing is, if you announce to the world that life existed on another planet, everything changes overnight. The foundations of religions, philosophies, and our entire sense of self are shaken to the core. Are we, as a society, ready for that? Maybe they're slowly leaking the truth, preparing us for a much bigger revelation down the line. But then there's the timing, and you can't ignore it. This historic announcement about Mars came just 24 hours after the United States Congress held explosive public hearings about UAPS, what we used to call UFOS. High-ranking military officials and intelligence officers gave testimony about encounters with technology that defies our known physics. It was a massive story. And then, just as the world was buzzing about that, NASA steps up with a Mars story so big it pushes everything else off the front page. Many people find that timing to be just a little too perfect. Is it a real discovery being used as a convenient distraction? It's a question worth asking. Not all things are what they seem, and governments have a long history of managing information to serve their own purposes. So let's really think about this for a moment. What are we, the average people on the street, supposed to do with all this? It's like getting hit by two different tidal waves in 2 days. First, we have government insiders on television talking about mysterious craft in our skies that defy physics. Then, not even 24 hours later, NASA rolls out what could be the biggest discovery ever: signs of life on another planet. The world is changing at a dizzying, almost unbelievable speed, and it's hard not to feel like your head is spinning. You have to ask yourself, are these two monumental events really just a coincidence? The thing is, when things are this perfectly timed, it usually means they're connected. Is this all part of a slow, controlled leak of information designed to fundamentally change our understanding of the universe? Maybe the people in charge know we can't handle the whole truth all at once, so they're feeding it to us in digestible pieces. First, the idea of unknown technology in our skies, then the idea of simple life far away. It's a strategy to ease us into a new reality without causing worldwide panic. But the thing nobody tells you is that these aren't just news headlines you forget by tomorrow. They get under your skin and poke at the deepest questions we all have. We look up at the night sky and don't just see stars anymore. We wonder who or what is looking back. We've seen the evidence from Sapphire Canyon and the ghosts of the Viking mission. Is this the real deal, or is it the greatest distraction in history? Let us know what you think in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more answers to the universe's biggest mysteries.